Hi, welcome to our home kitchen. Today we're making pizza using cold fermented pizza dough. That might sound intimidating, but it's easier than you think.
We're going to break this down into two parts, the pizza dough and then the pizza. We're going to make two 12-inch thin crust pizzas, but this recipe can be multiplied out. So if you need more than that, you can do more than that. We're also making a cold fermented pizza dough, which basically means that it rises in the fridge for a longer period of time slowly, as opposed to a warmer rising for just a few hours like you've probably seen before. There's a couple benefits to this. One of them is just that it tastes better. You'll get better flavor on the pizza and it'll be less yeasty and the dough or the crust will be crispier. It's also easier to work with when the dough is cold, and it lasts up to 5 days in your fridge, which means that it's basically ready when you are. For baking the pizza, we'll be using our pizza oven, our ooni pizza oven, but we'll also show you how you can do it in your oven with a pizza stone or even just a pizza pan. Let's get started.
Here's the recipe we're using. You'll notice that all the measurements are by weight. We strongly recommend weighing out all your ingredients because you'll always get a more accurate result. It's also just faster once you get used to it. So, for the dough, we're going to be using 00 flour, olive oil, kosher salt, yeast, and warm water. For the pizza, we're using our pizza dough, pizza sauce, grated mozzarella cheese, and fresh basil.
For equipment, we recommend using a stand mixer. It's not 100% necessary. You can mix the dough by hand, but it's a lot easier to mix it using your stand mixer. Additionally, we recommend having a scale. The benefit to having a scale is you can measure ingredients more accurately and more quickly once you get used to it. A thermometer, check the temperature of your water. You need it to be about 110 degrees, slightly warmer than body temperature, but not hot because you can kill the yeast. Something else that we like to use is a bench scraper just to scrape down inside the bowl, make sure there's no dry flour around, and just makes the dough mix more evenly. For pizza baking, you'll need a pizza pan, or we use a cast iron pizza pan, but you can use a pizza stone, or if you just have a normal pizza pan, that's fine too. So we'll start with mixing our water and our yeast. So we have 210 grams of warm water and a half gram of active dry yeast, and we just mix it all together. And we're just going to let this hang out for probably 5 minutes or so, just till the yeast is dissolved and it starts to activate, gets a little bubbly.
Okay, now the yeast is bloomed. You can see that it's fully dissolved and you're getting bits of bubbles and foam around the outside, and then you know it's active. We're going to add that to the bowl. And then 5 grams of olive oil. And then 350 grams of 00 flour. And 10 grams of kosher salt. In our stand mixer, we add the wet and then the dry, because somehow in our stand mixer it works better that way, but that depends on the stand mixer, and ultimately it doesn't really matter what order you put them in, as long as it's all in there. So, bring it up, and we're going to put it on low to medium speed. On our stand mixer it's about a 2 for about 15 minutes. What you're looking for is for the dough to be smooth in texture and quite elastic. We're going to perform a window pane test later. We'll do that together and we'll show you what that looks like. But while it's mixing, you may have to use your bench scraper and scrape down the sides a little bit. You may or may not have to do that, but you'll notice, like, to make sure that any flour and all the water gets incorporated. So we will get this started and see you in 15 minutes.
Now what we'll do is we'll just take our dough, we'll just roll it into a nice loose ball, and we can cover it with anything, a towel, piece of plastic, or I can just take the bowl and just turn it upside down. We'll just let the dough rest for 15 minutes before we portion it into balls and shape it to be ready to go into the fridge to proof.
Now, go ahead, please. So we're just going to divide and shape. Now, with this amount of dough, I would probably just eyeball it, honestly. We'd be safe to do that. But if you're making more than this, or if you don't feel comfortable eyeballing it, then what you can do is weigh it out properly. So we're going to take our scale here, measure it out. It's 565.1. So divided by 2 is 280-ish, 280. So I'm going to take it out. Take your bench scraper or a knife, scissors even, whatever you want to do. Cut the guy in half. This is going to be too big, I think. Oh no, 282.6. Heck yeah. There you go. So now 2 balls.
We'll just take our balls and we'll just fold them over on themselves and just roll them on the counter. The dough is really easy to work with. It's not too sticky. It's just, you can just roll it nicely. You just get a nice smooth ball. You can just use any container you have, small container, big container. Just make sure there's room for space for the balls to expand a little bit while they're sitting. We just use a little bit of olive oil spray. You can use just normal oil with a paper towel. Just wipe it out. The spray is just a little easier. Give it a little spritz. Put the 2 dough balls in there. And then just put a little spritz on top of them so they don't dry out. Put the lid on and pop them in the fridge for a day, 2 days, up to 5. Day 6, it starts to go not so good.
Yeah, the sweet spot is probably 3 to 4 days-ish. You can use it as soon as 24 hours from now, but it's going to get better as it ages. So I would definitely say wait at least 2 days before using it. So yeah.
See you in a few days.
Okay. So now we have our pizza doughs. We did these 2 days ago. So about 48 hours fermentation. And we're going to be cooking one of them in our home oven here with a pizza pan we showed you earlier. It's already in there. The oven is also preheating. You want it to be pretty much as high as your oven can go, somewhere between 450 and 500. And then we're going to make the other one in the ooni oven outside. And we'll show you both. Okay, so to stretch the doughs, you'll need a large countertop surface. You'll need some bench flour. Here we're using semolina flour. You can also use a mixture of semolina and your pizza flour if you want. The semolina has a coarser texture, which will help the pizza dough to slide off of your paddle nicer. If you just use straight double O flour, it will probably stick and slide, or stick and not slide. And I would definitely not recommend using corn flour. Some people try to use that, but I do find that it burns in the oven, especially if you're putting it on a hot stone or in a pizza oven. So let's get to stretching. Okay, so this is probably the most intimidating part of making fresh pizza, is stretching the dough. It's really not as hard as you'd think, and really all it takes is a ton of practice. That's all that you're gonna need, honestly. So you're gonna start with taking the dough and cover your surface in a bunch of flour, and then you're gonna cover your pizza dough. You can't see this, but it's covered. It's covered in pizza dough, in pizza flour. Okay, in your semolina bench mix. Okay, I guarantee you're gonna need all this flour. It looks like a lot, but you're gonna need it. So you're gonna squish it down, just like this. And then once it's covered in flour and kind of like a little bit bigger than it was, you'll pick it up and you're gonna start pinching around the outside using your fingers and your thumb here. Pinch around the outside. I'm letting it rest on the counter so that I'm not stretching it too much. Okay, pinch around the outside, you're making the crust. And for the rest of the time that we're stretching this dough, we're gonna try not to squish the crust at all. Okay, so now it doesn't look like a circle anymore. It's kind of all misshapen looking, but it's okay. It'll reform itself. So we put it back on the counter after having squished the edges, and you can see there's a nice bevel here. Can you see that? I think you can see that. There's a nice bevel here around the edge. Now, making sure that my hands are not sticky or wet in any way with some flour, I'm gonna slowly turn it around and using my fingers, never putting my palm or my fingers on the edge. Again, we're protecting the crust side. Okay, using my fingers and the outside of my pinky palm here, and we're going to twist, turn, and stretch, pulling away very gently. You don't have to worry too much about overstretching at this point. This is enough dough that it won't be so thin that you're going to really make any holes in it unless you're very, very aggressive. But that's pretty much it. That was pretty easy. It's pretty quick. I think we have a nice circle here. I think you can see it really well. And for diameter, we're looking for about 14 inches across, or in my case, I'm looking for about the size of my pizza paddle, which is a bit more than 12 inches. The reason for that is because everything you do from now until it comes out of the oven is going to shrink the dough just a little bit. When I take this and put it on here, it's going to shrink. When you put the sauce on it, it's going to shrink. When you cook it, it's going to shrink a little bit. So you're just making it just a bit bigger, an inch or two bigger than you want it to turn out to be. We're making a 12-inch pizza, so it's going to be 14 inches. Okay? Now to get it on here, to get it on your pizza paddle, I'm going to flip it onto my hand like that. It's really not, like my hand is on the pizza. It's on the pizza dough, okay? Flip it onto your hand, use both of your hands like this, and gently just fold it right over like that. Okay, so now again, it looks like a bit of a mess. You'll go back in, clean it up. It's about the exact same size as my pizza paddle, and make sure it's a nice circle, and that's it. We have stretched our first pizza.
Okay, so now we're going to dress our pizza. Today we're just doing a basic margarita. All right, so we're ready to go into the oven now. We have our pizza pan preheated. It's been in there for probably 20 minutes or a half an hour. We'll just slide our pizza right off our peel onto the pan. It slides really easily because we put some semolina down on the pan before we built the pizza on it. And now it's just ready to go in the oven. Alright, so that was our cold fermented pizza recipe. We hope you give it a try. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you in our next video.